call this meeting in Davenport Community School District Board of Directors to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before I get rolling, I just wanted to have a moment of silence for the victims of the Perry School. It was a very tragic event, and a few individuals lost their lives on that. So if everyone just have a moment of silence. Thank you. Director Beck, would you please read the mission and vision statements?
I'm having trouble getting, there it is, okay. My browser's not opening. Yes, our mission statement, the Davenport Community School District is dedicated to growing excellence in academics, the arts, and athletics for every child by ensuring the highest quality education in an environment shaped by our diverse community, preparing our students to be lifelong learners and productive citizens. Our vision statement, education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you, Director Beck. Director Hayes, would you please read the guiding principles?
Yes, I'll be happy to. Opportunities, we provide abundant opportunities to empower students to reach their full potential academically, creatively, and socially. Collaborations, we foster an environment that allows students, families, and community stakeholders to come together for the betterment of our students' education and future. Transparency, we share relevant and important information with our students, families, and the community to maintain open and productive communication.
Thank you, Superintendent Schneckloff. Would you please read the goals?
Goal number 1, to enhance student learning, will be our main focus for tonight.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to public hearings. We will now hold a public hearing on the proposal to continue using the 1,080-hour model for the 2024-25 school year. This proposal was published in the Quad City Times on January 6, 2024. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please step forward to the microphone or call 1-312-626-6799 and enter meeting ID 920-9473-4714 and passcode 776092. State your name and address for the record. All right, seeing and hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Director Klein-Jerome.
I move that we approve a schedule of 1,080 hours of instruction time for the 2024-25 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Director Potts. Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. Director Klein-Jerome.
Yes.
Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Barnes.
Yes.
Director Postian.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. We will now hold a public hearing on the proposed start date for the 2024-2025 school year of Friday, August 23rd, 2024. This proposal was published in the Quad City Times on January 6th, 2024. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please step forward to the microphone or call 1-312-626-6799 and enter meeting ID 920-9473-4714 and passcode 776092. State your name and address for the record. It's a lot of reading for no one to show up. All right, seeing and hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. Is there any further, I'll entertain a motion. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I move the board approve the start date of August 23rd, 2024 for the 2024-25 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Potts. Is there any discussion? Director Kleinfeld.
There is a bill or legislation being discussed that would change this August 23rd date. And my understanding is that we can revisit this and put it to the new date that would be maybe passed into law, correct?
Yes, and
Correct. If there's any movement on that, as soon as there is, we'll bring this start date back to the table.
Thanks for asking that question. I was going to ask the same thing. Director Beck.
So was I. But I did have one other question. Why stick with the Friday and not start on a Monday when it's, instead of having one day and then starting on a Monday? Is there,
In order to maintain the calendar with the end date that we have in mind, it's important for us to use the first available start date.
okay, thanks.
Any other discussion? All right. Seeing and hearing none, this will be a roll call vote as well. Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Poston.
yes.
Director Klein Jerome.
Yes.
Director Barnes.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. All right, one more. I will now conduct a public hearing on the plans and specifications for the Williams partial placement and roof restoration project as shown in the 95% plans and specifications. Notice of the hearing was published in the Quad City Times on January 4th, 2024. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please step forward to the microphone or call 1-312-626-6799 and enter meeting ID 920-9473-4714 and passcode 776092. State your name and address for the record. This is the last one. All right, seeing and hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Director Poston.
move the board approve the plans and specifications for the Williams Intermediate Partial Replacement and Roof Restoration Project as shown in the 95% plans and specifications.
Is there a second?
Second.
My
It's-
paperwork wasn't right, I'm sorry.
That's okay, we get the second.
Thank you. Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Director Klein Jerome.
I have a question because when I get a roof replaced, I get the whole roof replaced. It goes on at one time and later on it goes all, well, why is it these partial things? Why aren't we just doing the whole roof and be
If
done
you
with it?
if you put an addition onto a building, that addition might be 15 years newer or 5 years newer than everything else. So sometimes we stagger it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Great question I ask all the time because the crane's there moving stuff. It'd be cheaper to do it all at once, but that's how we roll. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Director Poston,
Yes.
Director Potts,
Yes.
Director Barnes,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
My vote is yes, motion carries. We don't have any recognitions tonight. We'll move on to presentations. Our first presentation is 4.01, Migration is Beautiful. I'll turn it over to Superintendent.
Are our migration is beautiful friends here tonight? I don't see them, so we'll have to reschedule this one at a different time.
All All right, so we will move that on to a future agenda. Our second presentation is 4.02 Unified Champions. I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you very much. Well, at the push of the board, I would say one of the goals that we had was to bring Unified Champions back into our school district, formerly known as Special Olympics. And we have 2 champions of this in our district right here, right now. I'm very proud of the efforts that have been put into this to be a to be an inclusionary district, to be an inclusion district. If you remember, what was it, 2 years ago, when we talked about what does it mean to include others and to really have a mindset of inclusion. And the presentation that the staff members from the state came and gave us really motivated us to set this forward. The 2 human beings that are with us tonight are truly our champions inside of our district, and we thank you very much for being here. So I'll turn it over to you. Would you please introduce yourselves and your roles in the district before you do your presentation? Thank you. And thank you for being here.
Sure, thank you for inviting us. I'm Ann Schultz. I am the TLCS Innovator for PE and Health, and I've also been working as the liaison or the coordinator for all things between Special Olympics Iowa and the Unified Champion Schools in the district.
I'm Stephanie Reagan, and I'm a high school counselor at Davenport West High School. And I've had this club, Falcon Friends. I started it years ago. I've been at West for a while now, back in 2011. And then Ann spoke with me about this, about how Unified Champion Schools would be so great to go along with Falcon Friends.
So upon TJ's request, he wanted an update. I was here in April of 2022, and I was part of the team that was put together to investigate, how can we get Special Olympics going, and then we found the Unified Champion Schools program within that, and I gave that update. So tonight, I'm just going to give a district update on where we're at with all the schools, and then Stephanie is going to talk about the program at West. So do I have the clicker? You click? Oh, okay. All right, so in case you can't remember, or maybe you weren't part of this, Unified Champion Schools, the goal is to bring together students with and without intellectual disabilities, and we do this through education, sports, and youth leadership. There's 3 components right here for all of our schools to continue to be a Unified Champion school. So schools need to participate in Special Olympics Unified Sports, have inclusive youth leadership, and provide school-wide engagement activities throughout the year. So these are our schools currently that are Unified Champion schools. There's been just a couple changes since the beginning, but all the schools listed here have been in the program for 3 years except Adams Elementary. They were just added this year. Bailey was a special education teacher at Buchanan, and she transferred to Adams, so now she's running the program there. Delegation managers is the fancy term from Special Olympics for the people in the buildings doing all the things. So there's quite a combination of people that are special education teachers. Stephanie's a counselor. Karen's a paraeducator. And then Allison Newman teaches sociology and psychology at North. So it's great to see a combination of all people willing to take on that role in the buildings. So some district-wide information. Each year, Special Olympics has given us a budget to use district-wide. This year, the funds were a little bit different. The high schools received $800 each, and the middle school and elementaries each received $500. And all those funds, the delegation manager pretty much decides what they want to use those for: transportation, fees for practices, and also a big chunk of that is for Inclusion Week items this year, which is a little different than the past. Schools have bought t-shirts, bracelets, any other materials for that whole school-wide engagement. So this year it's going to be interesting to see how far that money goes. And I was talking to Kevin before the meeting started. Kiwanis is earmarking $2,000 for our district. Kevin and I had a conversation just in passing. I was dropping off the check, and he said, hey, Kiwanis has reached out, said there's a grant or something, and we filled out the paperwork, and they're having a trivia night in February. So they asked if I'd come speak and just give a little blurb about our programming, and they're going to donate $2,000 for us to use as a district, which is pretty exciting when buses are $250 to go bowl, and we have to pay for practices and all that stuff. So thank you, Kevin. One quick conversation led to that. All the schools, high schools and middle schools, have been running unified clubs. They plan activities, maybe monthly or quarterly, with students with and without disabilities, everything from painting pumpkins to Valentine cards, pizza parties, board games. This fall, I had a meeting with Krista, and we're brainstorming how to grow the Unified Champion schools, our current schools, and maybe adding a few more. So that's exciting. This slide just talks about Inclusion Week, which is probably one of the biggest events for our Unified Champion schools. All schools the last 2 years have done an incredible job promoting kindness, respect, and acceptance throughout the school, from morning announcements to door decorating, dress-up days. You can see this is Williams, and they have Choose to Include in the windows up front. The top picture is West High School, and they made posters to promote all the things that were going to be happening around the building. The students and their unified partners and the Falcon Friends worked on those and then hung them up throughout the building. So I'm going to try to do a better job of getting those pictures out and communicated to the community on what a great week that is. So that's all I have for district stuff. So I'm going to hand it over to Steph, and she's going to chat about her amazing program.
All right. Thanks, Anne. So I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys know about a few West High School highlights. And a lot of this stem from the Club Falcon Friends. So it's a group of students with and without disabilities, and we do a lot of fun things together. So this year, this last May, I had an opportunity to apply for the National Banner Recognition through Special Olympics Iowa, and West High School was chosen. We received it, and there's only 3 schools total this year that were added to National Banner, and West is one of them. And what a high school has to do to be able to receive this recognition, you have to meet 10 of the standards. And some of those standards are to participate in unified sports. This year we did unified golf and unified bowling. You also have to have monthly meetings, which we do as a Falcon Friends Club. And we also need to participate in activities such as Inclusion Week, like Anne spoke about earlier. We do lots of fun things Monday through Friday of the week, and we get the whole school involved. So one of the wonderful things is with this National Banner Recognition, we have Krista Smith from Special Olympics Iowa, and she's coming to West High School on Thursday, this Thursday. So everyone here, you're invited if you'd like to come, if you have the availability, at 10:30 a.m. in the West High School auditorium. And she will be presenting West High School with the National Banner Award. So it should be a wonderful opportunity to see that occur. All right. And here's a highlight. So one of our activities, we did it last year and this year as well, West High School Unified Sports Bowling. This is always a super popular sport amongst students. And we get the athlete and their unified partner. We go to the bowling alley. You have to get in 3 practices before you can compete. So that's excuse me, that's part of the cost also, but the kids love it. Okay. And then this year, 2 of our unified teams qualified for state in Cedar Rapids. They have a state bowling opportunity. And then some of our students participated in the open division for the Special Olympic athletes. This is the first year we did unified golf. And if you just look at this picture right here of those 2 students, the athlete and the partner, you can just see how excited they are with the smiles on their faces. And that's what this is all about. They love it. And a lot of these students, like the partner and the athlete, it was their first time ever playing golf in their entire life. So not only does it promote friendship, but also promotes a great deal of sportsmanship and learning new sports. And because we had 17 teams, unified teams, that was the most of any school that came. This year, they're thinking about having a unified golf event just for West High School because we had so many teams. So that's a wonderful thing. And every student that participated won a medal. Last year, we also did Special Olympics basketball. Now, Special Olympics is still within the realm of unified sports, but this is just Special Olympics competing against other students. So we did 3-on-3 last year in January at North Scott, and we had unified practices though. Now this year, there's 2 other teachers, Miss Swords and Miss Richardson at West, and they're going to take over just the Special Olympics route, not the unified, just Special Olympics, and they're going to coach basketball. So that'll be great. And then here's something for West High Inclusion Week. This is just an example from what we did last year. As you can tell, we had dress-up days every day of the week, and each day we had different inspirational quotes over the announcements to speak about Inclusion Week. One of the most popular things, we just got these super fun friendship bracelets, and we had the students go in the hallway and give it to any student that they saw, and the kids loved it. You wouldn't think high school students would go crazy for a friendship, a neon, brightly colored friendship bracelet, but they loved it. So we'll do that again this year. We also had a unified donut party for whichever classroom had like the best decoration for their door decorating contest, something that was unified. So that was a lot of fun. And we also did a show choir dance. Mr. Anderson, our show choir teacher, did a dance for the school, and all of the students got to learn to dance. So we did several different activities, and Mr. Smith helped us out with an engineering activity. So there's a lot of other teachers that get involved with this also. So it really brings the school together. Okay, and then Anne will speak a little bit about some future goals.
Yep, so some goals for this year. The first one is to host a young athlete play day in the spring. So I'm looking to partner with Muscatine. This activity is for our youngest Special Olympic athletes, 9 and under, and they are exposed to 11 of the sports that Special Olympics offer. So there's different stations. Hy-Vee usually provides lunch. So we're looking at busing and coordinating that in the spring. We've tried the last 2 years and there's just been barriers. So I want to get that done this year. So we're trying to build some more unified sports programs at Central and North. Steph has set the bar high at West, as you can tell. She's doing all things, and that's because of her drive and her commitment and her willingness to put in all the extra time it takes to track physicals and communication and all that stuff. So we're working to build that. And then I just spoke to increased communication between the delegation managers and Special Olympics. As my role, I'm going to be phasing out, and there won't always be this district type person. So I'm working to just, I'm not going to be able to coordinate all things. This will be the last year for that. And then just work to find ways to sustain the programming, the money from the Kiwanis and other ideas, because like she said, the practices, that takes money. It's not free to take the kids during school to go bowling, but if you want to compete, we gotta get the practices in. So those are my goals for this year. And final thoughts?
Yeah, I would say unified sports, it's all about relationships. If you feel like you have a connection to school, some friends at school, you're more likely to go and really engage with your community at school. It's all about building community. And I have one student that's a teacher at West High School, and she was a former Falcon friend, and now she's a special education teacher. So that's really nice to see that happen. And we hope to continue to participate in 2 unified sports a year.
And my final thought is I feel super lucky to have been a close partner with Stephanie and see the relationships and the things that happen between the students, the unified partners, and the Special Olympic athlete. I just think it's amazing when you look at the girls there making the little cute face. I mean, that was at the bowling alley. They see each other at lunch and they wave, and it just really has built that community at West High. So I'm super grateful I got to be a part of it. Any questions for us too? Thank you. Nope.
I should say I'm super grateful to Anne as well. This would not have been as successful without her. So thank you. She's been wonderful to work with.
Thank you all for your presentation. Thank you for all the awesome things you're doing, and I'm glad to see the goals for growing and things like that. So it's way bigger than I was thinking when we talked about this a couple years ago. So
Yeah,
thank you
it's
all
taken
very
off.
much about this. This is awesome, and way to include the other kids and things like that too. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Student board reports. Whoever wants to start.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ethan Cepeda, one of the student representatives from North High School, and I would like to begin today with congratulating the newest inductees of North's annual Ring of Honor for the class of 2024. They are Mr. Guy Heller, a graduate of North in 1992, who is now an associate principal at Central High School, Dr. Chris Crome, who graduated from North in 1992 and is now a chief medical officer in the Genesis Health System, and finally, Paul Holsworth, an honorary inductee who is the former head of North's drama department. But shifting the focus to the yearbook for the first time this year, as a high school senior, I understand the importance of this year and the triumph of graduating high school. So parents of seniors, what could possibly make this year more memorable than an advertisement in the yearbook to highlight your student? Well, no need to worry, this is very possible. For prices ranging from $30 for 1/8 of a page to $150 for a full page, you can purchase one of the many allocated ad spaces as a part of our senior salute, where the memories of high school can be forever immortalized in the yearbook. If you are interested, make sure you fill out the form linked on the e-blast and contact our yearbook club leader, Mrs. Christian, today, as the deadline is next Thursday, February 1st. Something else that students and family alike might want to pay attention to is the fact that yearbooks are already available to be purchased and reserved today. The biggest advantage of purchasing a yearbook this early in the school year is that the prices are usually heavily discounted as compared to later times in the school year. Like, for example, if you purchase a yearbook now, the price is only $70 compared to the usual pricing of $80 to $90. So do not delay, purchase a yearbook today. The Athletic Boosters Club will be organizing a fundraiser to support the costs of winter sports this school year at their Rock and Roll Bingo. Each person gets 2 bingo cards at the event, with single admission being $20 or the reservation of a table that sits 8 people for $150, being the 2 types of admissions people who are interested can be expected to find. There will be a raffle and silent auction. Just a few items are Cubs and Cardinal tickets, a suite at the River Bandits Stadium, a $500 gift card, and restaurants galore, which is like, deals and discounts at restaurants. The event will be taking place at 6 p.m. on Saturday, February 3rd, 2024 at Hickory Creek Event Center. With only 6 tables left for attendees, if you are interested in participating, make sure you purchase admission tickets as soon as possible. Also, if you're the parent of a middle school student that is interested in becoming actively involved in cheerleading as a high school student, then look no further than North's Wildcat Kids Cheer Clinic 2024, where students will have the chance to meet current North cheerleaders and coaching staff and undergo training on a few basic drills, with the end goal of performing at the pregame of North's varsity basketball game against Central DeWitt on February 6th, where both parents and participants will have free admission. The cost for your child to attend is $40 and includes 2 days of clinics, performing a cheer and stunts at one of the basketball games, and a specially designed t-shirt and their own set of pomps. The dates of the 2 clinics are January 29th and February 5th, both from 5:45 to 7:15 p.m. at the field house behind North's building. And then the last thing I have is certainly not of the least importance, as this Saturday, North will be host to one of the biggest show choir events of the entire year, the annual Big Dance Show Choir Invitational. The event will host over 1,000 students from high schools all over the Midwest in a spectacular showing of both vocal and dance abilities. The cost to attend is $15 for adults and $10 for students and senior citizens. So do not miss one of the most exciting show choir competitions in the Quad Cities area. And also, that was the end of the North board report I have, but I will also be reading Central's, as no Central student representatives could make it today. So this was sent to me by Jack Stremlow, who is one of the 3 Central representatives. Central's varsity show choir, Central Singers Incorporated, and the JV group Blue Vibrations kicked off their season with a premiere performance on January 13th. Despite the snowy conditions, over 700 tickets were sold. The groups are looking forward to their first competition this weekend at North. It will also compete in Mount Pleasant, Benton, and Western Dubuque. They will also host the Great Rivers Show Choir Invitational, which attracts show choirs from all over the country. Davenport Central Athletics have also had a lot of recent success, as the Davenport girls wrestling team took 5th overall. Both the JV girls and varsity boys bowling teams have recently won their tournaments in Clinton, and the boys team will take on Pleasant Valley Wednesday. Friday night, the freshman boys basketball team shook off a slow start to upend Central DeWitt 57-49. All men's basketball teams look forward to continuing their success at West tonight. On January 12th, the varsity boys basketball team won an exciting game against Davenport Assumption. And Assumption has consistently been a top team in the MAC, so this is a great win for them. And then last weekend, junior Colin Frost beat the 20th ranked wrestler nationally and placed second in the wrestling team's tournament in Clinton. The team placed 9th out of 21 teams. Central Guidance staff will also be starting a Love Notes class. This organization aims to raise awareness about dating violence and emotional abuse. This group has been very popular in the past and anticipates a large amount of interest. And that was the report for both North and Central.
Hi there, I'm Vi Nguyen, a senior at West. Last Friday night, our varsity boys basketball team went against North Scott and won 76-74, upsetting North Scott's undefeated title in the MAC conference. Congrats to our boys basketball, not only to them, but also the basketball program at West. We're incredibly proud of them and the achievement they won this season, and can't wait to see more. Also last Friday, Walcott's middle school band was also joined West Pep Band in playing stand toots prior to the game, allowing more connection between the schools. We'd also like to congratulate Lee Nelson for being selected in the Southeast Iowa Band Association Honor Band. He performed last Saturday, January 20th, alongside other selected students across the state in the University of Iowa Boxman building. Congrats to him. West is starting our very own Gray Lives Matter chapter to better improve mental health awareness, and would love to see more people. Furthermore, this morning, our amazing industrial technology teacher, Mr. Smith, presented at Rotary today about West Kenya Water Project. Last year, 4 students traveled to Kenya to work towards accessible filtered water sources. After a year, there is still more to be talked about, so congrats to Mr. Smith and his work. Although we will not be seeing West Show Choir debut, this upcoming Wednesday, West Choir program will be performing their Pops concert with classics such as Joan Lee by Dolly Parton and new tunes by Billie Eilish. Come by and see what another winter break can do for our students. That concludes our board reports.
Thank you, student board members. We appreciate it. You sure you don't have one for Mid-City in you, Julie, since Ethan did too? All right, thank you very much. Board reports. Are there any board reports? Director Klein-Jerome.
First of all, we'd like to offer our condolences to the family of Katie Tritt. She was an elementary teacher in Davenport, and then when she retired, she subbed for many years. Also, TJ, Dan, and I, along with LULAC, kind of went on a field trip to the Putnam. If you've not been to the Putnam in a long time, I really encourage you to go. It was an awesome experience. And then we also went to Project Renewal, which I knew nothing about. They are down at 5th and Warren, and they do after-school programs and summer programs for students. It is phenomenal what they are doing down there.
Any other board reports? Like Director Klein-Jerome said, and then we also attended, so monthly we meet, myself, Karen, and TJ with the NAACP and LULAC, and then we had the meeting with the NAACP, and we were talking about the upcoming CTE fair to try to get more minority students into our CTE program pathways. And that's probably something that's on here, so I'm not going to go very far on it.
It's tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. I'll put a plug in that tomorrow night.
5:30 to 7:30 at the Lincoln Center.
5:30, 7:30 at the Lincoln Center.
Be there, be square.
That's right. Any other board reports? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'll move on to communications. Open forum. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at a board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak, please fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The form is available in hard copy for in-person attendees or on the school board page of the district's website for those who want to participate virtually. Virtual participants must email their request to Brenda T. at tbren@davenportschools.org by 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting. The board will not act on any issue presented during open forum if it was not published as an agenda item. Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action on any issue that is not on the agenda. The president may set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. You will be asked to state your name and home address prior to making remarks. Brenda, did we have any virtual? No. Okay. And we have one open forum request. Tim Hammond, did I say it right? Perfect. 2 minutes, sir.
Good. Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Tim Hammond. My wife is a Davenport Community School District teacher at Walcott School, and my 3 kids go to Walcott School. We had a situation that I think we can learn from and make sure we do it better that I would like to share. On November 1st, my son reported to the principal at 9:10 a.m. about a TikTok video made by another student in his class threatening his life. The TikTok video says, and I quote, "I only kill a boy named Colin." At 11:45, my wife called me asking if I had received any phone calls regarding our son, and I told her I had no idea what she was talking about. She told me that she is hearing secondhand from other people in the building about that our son's life had been threatened. I tried to show patience. I was very worried as a parent. At approximately 12:30, I called the school to speak to the principal, to which I was told he was in a meeting, and I said put me through anyway, considering this is one of the biggest safety concerns any parent could obviously have. No answer. I left a message. I better not read that part. At 1 p.m., I finally drove to the school to be greeted by the principal, and he asked me to go back to his office. In his office, he immediately apologized for the poor timing of making contact to report an incident about my son's safety. He assured me that the student who made the video was not in the building and that Colin was safe. We went over the situation that occurred that day. I was told that we needed to set up a meeting with him, the counselor, my wife, my son, and myself to create a safety plan. I was also told the district police officer was contacted, but the Walcott police never was contacted. Since our school is in Walcott and they are the closest, I really thought they should have been contacted. We had our meeting on Monday, the 7th at 9:30 a.m. I was disappointed not to see any Davenport Community School District administrator there. After our initial discussion going over everything that has happened at the school this year involving Colin and the other student, we went directly into a student safety plan. The safety plan was to basically keep our son and the other student away from each other as much as possible. Walcott is a one-section school, meaning there was no way to separate our son and the other student. They would be in the same classroom at all times. The classroom teacher was never asked how she felt about this plan. We were also told that the other student's backpack would be checked in the office every day. My wife asked, what about before he gets on the bus for the safety of other kids? She was basically told there is not much they can do about that. We were also told that the district police officer spoke with the other students' parents, and she assured him that they have no weapons in the home. Nothing about this as a parent sat well with me. We ended up taking things into our own hands. We found several messages that the student continued to send to other students in the class about our son, even after the incident. We found out that the student never took down the TikTok about our son, and also had another one about a girl that he rides the bus with in Walcott, saying that she should die. We had to present this all to the administration to state that after everything we saw, there's no way we are comfortable with this safety plan. In the end, the other student now attends another Davenport school. That makes me feel better for my son. But what has the district done to help the other student? Did he get counseling? Did he see a psychiatrist? What is the district doing to help to keep the kids safe at the new school? Is there a safety plan? I'm sharing this because since the Perry shooting, I cannot help but feel that this could have been us. We need to do better. I do not know what the answer is, but communication and threat level awareness need to improve. If my wife and I wouldn't have pushed the situation further and just gone with the safety plan that was created, I'm scared to know what could have happened. The number one reason I hear from people leaving the district is safety and discipline. I want you to sit back and think as a parent. If you saw your child's name in print saying somebody wants to kill them, how would you feel? Would you be comfortable sending your child and wife, or your children and wife, to a building where that student who threatened your child can just be there permitted, back in the building with just one teacher in a room? Would you be satisfied knowing your child is sitting in a classroom with someone that at one point was thinking about killing them and only one teacher there to stop things, because I can tell you it made me sick to watch my family walk out the door those days, not knowing if that student was going to be there in that building. Thank you for your time, and I would be happy if anybody ever did reach out and want to communicate with myself or my family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. The board appreciates community input at our meetings. All right, we will move on to consent agenda. May I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes,
I move the board accept the consent agenda as written.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. Superintendent report.
None at this time.
Committee reports. Do you have anything for the Breaking Barriers Committee?
We will be setting up a meeting in February with the stakeholders, some counselors, social workers.
Okay, thank you. Elziak?
Our meeting was canceled because of the weather. So our next meeting, if I remember correctly, is in February. Okay.
Good, thank you. Long Range Facilities Planning.
None at this time.
Policy Committee.
None at this time.
Nothing new on legislative advocacy other than what we talked about the last meeting. Finance Committee.
Kevin's going to be going over key measures and monthly fund report for November.
As far as the Finance Committee, we couldn't go last week, but we're going to do a makeup on February 1st. Tonight, I'm going to go over our monthly fund report first and then do our key measures. This will be brief, but there's a few highlights that I put in here. Very quickly on the revenue side for the general fund, you can see we had 14 million. FY23 had 0 federal funds, but last year was a year that the state was very slow at doing the reimbursement for federal funds, and you can see how that's going across. A lot of those federal funds are, for the 14 million is title, but the big change is from ESSER. We've been moving along, getting the final, we're kind of in the final stretch for ESSER funds, so you're going to see that ramp up for the rest of this year. And below, if you scroll down just a little bit further, Brenda, you can see where our fund balances are. You can see that we have a surplus of about $14 million. That's the anomaly from the revenue above, but we're doing very well as far as our ending fund balance year to date. I do want to mention on the sales tax fund, I keep mentioning we're going to be going through sales tax and PEPL a lot more regularly at these meetings. And you can see we've been kind of pressing pause on some of the sales tax till we get moving, but we're starting to move. You can see we have over $5 million of purchase services. So we're getting projects going that you've approved. But yet we still have about just under $50 million of sales tax funds that we will be spending going into the future as we start doing our bonding for our revenue bonds and so forth. That'll help carry us through. But I just want to mention those amounts so you see them on a regular basis. On the second page, you'll notice there are several funds that show a deficit as a whole. A lot of those are timing. Part of PEPL's reason for a deficit is because we're doing the West project with cash, but you'll notice that we still have an ending fund balance of over 14 million. Those are years of buildup of funds so we can do some of these larger projects. The other funds have a negative balance. That is when in the next couple months you're going to be doing the bonding for the sales tax revenue. We're doing some of the planning, some of the site testing and so forth that comes with the projects that we're doing. You'll notice that nutrition and the other funds, that would be our before and after school funds, those have a lag for revenue. That's why they're showing negative right now. They'll correct themselves as the year gets going through. And our internal service fund, which is our self-insurance fund, it's almost a wash right now, but as you start the year, there's some things kind of like insurances that we pay for up front. So there's some things that we've had to pay for to start the year. So that'll start to balance out as well and go to the positive. Any questions? Like I said, I'm going to go very quickly through those because there's not a lot of differences for the year.
Director Barnes.
This is probably a naive question, but when you talk about the lag, is that because it's a reimbursement to us, or is it just a slower payment? You talked about the nutrition and that there's a lag in.
Yeah, usually it's a slower. Usually there's a little bump at the beginning of the year when people register and they put funds in their kid's account. Then they kind of go down, and then it'll ebb and flow a little bit. So there's a lag right now going on. Plus November tends to be a little slower because we don't have a lot of school going on.
Okay, thank you.
November, December.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Kevin.
On the key measures report, you'll notice that our solvency ratio is running at an estimated 12.8%. That has been growing over time. That is a really good place to be for us. As far as our projection through the rest of the year, that is hitting exactly where we expected. The interesting part on that middle highlight is that you'll see that we budgeted for 99.8% of our budget, and we're sitting at about just short of 97%, with some gaps of some things lagging, but we're getting really close to being the leveling of, because that's where we want to be as we're ready to level off. We don't need those funds to grow that much, but it's leveling off. So you see a lot more of that instead of being in that 92 to 91% range. So that's good news to see that going across. And on the last part of that is the solvency ratio. Remember when I said it was growing so high, it's starting to level off. You'll see it's sitting at approximately estimated at 22%. As we go through the year, you're going to see that going across like that. It's what we expected it to do. And really the only thing on page 2 that I want to mention is, with all the things going on with us pushing out ESSER funds and getting everything spent, you'll see that there's a lot of things in red from where we budgeted to where it's actually projected to be. I will be coming with an amendment for this year. It'll true up all of our expenditures, and you'll see the reasoning being ESSER funding in those 4 categories. I didn't know exactly where those 4 categories are going to be at this time last year. We were still in the planning process. So now that we have a better feel for where it's at, you'll see that. Also, like the projects that we have going on, to know exactly how far they're going to be at the end of the year financially, we'll have a better feel for that. So we'll be coming with an amendment for that.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions? All right, thank you. We will move on to items requiring action. May I have a motion on subject 11.01, new flooring at Jefferson Elementary?
Mr. President,
Vice President Klein Jerome.
I move the board approve Jefferson Elementary flooring project to the state pricing OMNIA vendor engineered floors in the amount of $450,000.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. May I have a motion on subject 11.02, purchase Motorola radio system?
Mr. President,
Director Beck.
I move the board approve purchasing the Motorola radio system from Electronic Engineering for the amount of $1,161,285.10.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. May I have a motion on subject 11.03, District Athletic Director and Secondary Program Director? Director Hayes?
I move the board approve the addition to the full-time district athletic director position and a full-time secondary program director position beginning with the 24-25 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Director Poston?
Last meeting, I asked for a job description, and we got that in the Friday report that was sent out. But I just want some clarification as far as the duties of this athletic director and what's expected of the athletic director. I guess I'd like to see more of a breakdown of the specifics on what this director is going to be doing. We talked about working on the feeder program, coordinating between the schools, but I'd like to see the specifics so that we know for sure that we're creating this full-time position so that it helps our student athletes. And then on the secondary program director, I did get some of my questions answered as far as where that person would fall under, and it would be under Diane Campbell, correct? And the description of the secondary program director to me is still not clear. I guess I'd like to see more specific as far as what this person's actually going to be doing, and I don't want to create a position where I think this person needs to be in the buildings, boots on the ground, really supporting our teachers. And so I'd like a little more clarification there too.
Or just later in a Friday report?
No, could you speak to it now?
Right now? Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the specifics for the district athletic director and both of I would like to ask the members that will be supervising them to speak up here in just a second, but probably one of the most important responsibilities for the district-wide athletic director will be the development of our feeder programs. If you look at the pathway to our varsity competition fields, courts, wherever it may be, a lot of times there isn't a very clear path or an opportunity, and that we have bright spots of that all across our district. And the beautiful part about it is that John Flynn was this position before it was cut in the past. And there were very clear pathways for that. There were very clear job descriptions and items that were being accomplished at the time. And I can't imagine where we'd be right now with our athletics if there were continuation, stability, continuity, and routine with that position. So to that question, one of the number one things will be to working with feeder programs, developing boards, establishing the coaching clinics that you see, the varsity expectations that come down, to help create that continuity. John, I get really excited about that, John. Sorry for jumping in on that part, but.
I would echo everything that Superintendent Schneckloth just said. I would also like to highlight the fact that it's not only alignment and kind of an allegiance to a specific program, but it's also developing skill sets, developing routines, and making sure that there is a curriculum, so to speak, for each sport that we have. There are skills that need to be taught and learned, and it has to be done in a progression. And right now there are some holes in our progression that we need to shore up, and we need to get the right people in place and onboarded with each of our programs. And this is not to say that we don't have that going on in certain places, but we are not at a spot where all of our feeder programs are at a certain level. And we need to get to that upper level. And I think right now, I'll just use the North girls basketball program as an example. There's been a system in place. A lot of those girls have played together and have been a part of that, and we're seeing the results right now. They are very, very successful. We want all of our programs to be at that level, and that has to start earlier than we're starting those programs right now. So One thing I would say, Director Posh, and they were not included, we need to develop specific goals for participation. We need to develop specific goals for what these feeder programs will look like. And we need to have a structure that has some district oversight. And those are all things that are incorporated in this position.
Then, describe what you would like to see in this person that would fill this position.
This person needs to, number one, have a knowledge base of not only the sports themselves, but of organization. This person is going to need, in my mind, to help develop a framework for this. We have 3 building athletic directors that need to be involved, but this person needs to be the conduit between the high school ADs and coaches and the feeder coaches. This person needs to be in a spot where they can align not only the drill work, the philosophies of the varsity coaches, but the human resources that are needed to make those things happen. So this person needs to be able to reach out to people in the community to find out who those people are, bring them into the fold so that we can have very holistic programming. The other thing I didn't mention earlier, this person's going to have to take an active role in our strength and conditioning programs as well. You cannot compete at the 4 or 5A level right now without having a well-rounded, well-grounded strength and conditioning program. And ours are in very good spots right now, but we can always get better. So that's going to be a charge of this person as well, to make sure that our teachers and coaches who do a great job in the weight room have everything they need to move to the next level, because that's what they want to.
The one thing that really frustrates me now is participation. And you mentioned girls basketball. Well, a lot of our Davenport teams aren't able to play freshman and JV games because there aren't enough out. And so this just amazes me that, you know, schools of 1,100, 1,200 students, and we can't field a varsity and JV and a freshman team. So something has to change, and hopefully, you know, with a full-time AD that will help. But it's going to be a tremendous job. I mean, it's going to take a very special person to make this work. And I like the idea that you'll be involved because you have served in that capacity before, but we need to change something, you know, very quickly here.
And if I could, I think your last comment highlights the need for the position. Currently, with only a halftime position, that person it's been for the past few years has been doing 2 full-time jobs really in halftime roles. Without that time and that ability to focus on this endeavor, it would be very hard to get it done.
Thank you.
And then to the back half of that question, the second part, I'll turn to Diane and Courtney. Remember that this position was jointly created by them to help oversee all students in 6 through 12 and even post-secondary graduation. So I'll turn it over to Diane and Courtney to kind of talk about the emphasis of how this is going to help improve teaching and learning, how it's going to be somebody that's in the buildings, seeing, hearing, improving the outcomes for our students every day.
So I'll just take us back to, you know, where this originated from too, and it was twofold. And the first piece being engagement. And that's been a big piece on our radar, and needing somebody at the secondary level who has that level of expertise to be able to be boots on the ground to ensure that the curriculum resources are being used, instructional practices are really gaining that high leverage of engagement. I think about in the outline, we also discussed success criteria. So what would this look like for this position to be successful? So even going to engagement of our CTE concentrators and making sure that students are engaged in educational experiences and coursework that lead to that college and career readiness, which is the CTE pathways, or can be part of the CTE pathways. And it's not just for students, general education students, but when we did our data review with IDEA differentiated accountability, it was to increase the percentage of students with IEPs that are participating in our CTE programs. So that's an example of engagement, being boots in the ground in the buildings, ensuring that those things are happening and that those programs with ALI support, making sure that those are up and running. That's one example. We have students taking remedial English or math courses at the college level when they're going. So what are we doing in the classrooms to make sure that we're preparing students with that level of rigor? And that level of rigor needs to occur so that those remedial courses are no longer needed. And that would be another example of success criteria for this secondary program director to be able to really address through at the middle school and high school level. Another example is just the transition. We're losing a lot of students with that engagement piece from 8th grade to 9th grade. In our 9th grade, one of our district goals, as you see this evening, is to make sure that all 9th grade students are on track for graduation. And that is a heavy lift. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes of making sure that all freshmen are on track for graduation. And so the secondary program director will be able to assist with that, to really have their eyes on that goal, to ensure that we make that goal. And right now we're not there yet, and we're not close. And so we really need a focused attention to that work. And again, not just general ed, but that's where students with IEPs, EL, any kind of accommodations 504 would be. That's what's different about this particular position.
I think what's exciting is historically we've kind of operated and learning results has a position, and then we have a similar position in special ed, and that's when we create silos. And so it operate, well, this is what we're doing, what are you guys doing, right? Well, we really have to have the full picture in mind, all kids in mind, make sure we have a strong core for all curriculum instruction and assessment. And then when we know we're meeting the needs of most of our students, we can really start having those individualized conversations of what more do we need to be doing for our most at-risk students. So it's going to really create an opportunity for continued collaborations between our departments.
So a person in this position, how would you evaluate this person? What results are we going to see from the person in this position?
Our success criteria that we outlined included post-secondary readiness indicators, so decreasing those remedial courses as they go into post-secondary completion, increasing advanced coursework for all students, and making sure that the pass rate in those advanced courses are occurring. Another success criteria is that middle school outcomes will increase as evidenced by grades, attendance, and engagement. The percentage of 11th grade students who are college and career in reading, math, and science will increase. And that's again with students with IEPs, EL, and SES. The percentage of students that not only participate in our junior assessment that we're going to be launching in March with ACT, ALEX, ASVAB, and Work Keys, but not only the increased participation in that, but those scores are at a level that show and demonstrate that their students are college and career ready. So with all of those that I just described there, it goes back to engagement and level of rigor. And so having a post-secondary or having a secondary director be able to work with our specialists and to be able to be in the buildings to work with teachers on a day-to-day basis, as well as our leaders. It's not just teachers, but our leaders. To be able to support all of this is huge to ensure that these success criteria occur. The percentage of freshmen who are passing core courses is another success indicator that we would be monitoring and looking at on a regular basis. All students who engage in the educational experience of coursework with the CTE concentrators. So you'll see on our data wall this evening what the Q2 for our CTE work is right now, but what that would entail. Another one that we didn't originally have on here, but I'm going to tie it into our HR work is how we retain teachers, how we recruit and retain teachers. So an example of that is we have a wonderful opportunity with our Future Educator program. So every high school has somebody designated a mentor or that mentor or mentee that mentors students that are interested in going in the world of education. That's wonderful and it's great. And we need to really develop the lessons around that and the rigor around it and the recruitment for our students so that we're creating our pipeline and growing our own. I was listening to the amazing work that the Unified Sports presentation shared. There's a group of students right there that we should be talking to and talking with about, have you thought about going into special education or education in general? And if so, here's the Future Teacher program for retention. And that takes somebody and somebody's eyes to be able to also have all of that work. So we just need to have that leader at the post-secondary level to be able to do all of those things and be able to be in the buildings to support it and recruit. So those are some examples. Online learning is another one that we have over 200 students that are enrolled in our online program. Students with IEPs, students without IEPs, all for very different needs. But having a secondary program director to really be able to take us to the next level, so that level of rigor is really strong and that it's ensuring our students are ready, even if they're online, to be able to do what they need to do and make that a flexible learning environment so that they are ready and prepared to come back into the classroom. Standards-based assessment and reporting. It would be the last one that I would highlight that again within Courtney and I's, within our worlds, that we want to make sure that those standards-based assessment and the reporting that we're having provides clarity to the learning the students have. So those are examples when you talk about how do we know if this is working. Those are success criteria that the secondary program director would be working on, and that we would be working with them very closely to monitor and make sure that those data points are increasing and on the right trajectory.
What what would you estimate? What percent of this person's time would be spent in the buildings?
I would say the majority of the time. Even our elementary program director, in looking at her calendar and the work that she does, she's in the buildings all the time. If I had to take a percentage, 75 to 80% of the time.
And then you and Courtney would be working alongside of her most of the time then?
We would be working with the program directors. Okay.
Under the org chart that the superintendent sent to us in their Friday report, just under you, Diane, as Director of Learning and Results, then we've got Bonnie Acey, and her title is Program Director for K through 12 Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. Now, to me, is there going to be overlap there between that and this and the secondary person?
No, Bonnie, because of the loss of administrators in the past, she picked up the secondary piece, so we have not been able to.
Just come a little closer to it.
Okay, there we go. So she would be able to focus on the elementary, and then the secondary program director would be a secondary. With that said, it's so important that we not create those silos that have been that are easy to fall into. And so those two positions would work collaboratively together. Courtney and I have talked briefly about some structures in place, some routines that would occur and can occur to make sure that we have the right meetings and that we have the right people at the tables to make sure that we don't have silos. An example of that for SBAR, Standards-Based Assessment Reporting. we would want to make sure that our elementary programming and our secondary programming is on the same wavelength. When we talk about rigor, we want that to be the same. So there's that overlap and that collaboration that would occur in a pre-K-12 system.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Director Beck, I believe you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, I just, I appreciate getting the specifics of both of these. I'm a little leery of creating more positions because one thing we've found over the years is that that is one of the things that people come back to us about a lot. There's too many administrators. There's too many administrators. And I have some concerns, particularly about a district-wide, creating a district-wide AD position right now, because I know that we are really on the edge of having funding available for our reading interventionists and other specialized positions in the future, right? Because ESSER funds are not forever. We've gotten emails about even the number that we have now may not be sufficient. And I guess I'm just a little concerned. I appreciate the need for a district-wide athletic director. And I totally agree with everything that's been described, but I would not want to see that put in place when we have other needs, particularly around early literacy and some of our core instruction that's right in contact with those students right now, and especially as we think about how we're going to fund some of these positions as ESSER runs out. So I guess I'd like to see plans for making sure that we can maintain at least the minimum level of interventionists that we have under ESSER right now and continue that, if not add, before I'm comfortable voting for new administrators, if that makes sense.
Director Klein-Jerome.
I think we also have to realize right now it is a half-time athletic director. And when you're right, when you are doing 2 half-time jobs, you're trying to do full-time jobs for both. And that just doesn't work. We do need a full-time athletic director. We look at our teams and go, wow, how come we aren't at the caliber of some of the other districts? And so we're only adding a half a position here. And I realize, yes, there are many needs in this district. I do believe this is one because a half-time person cannot do this full-time in 2 half-time positions. The secondary position, and I also realize, I taught elementary for many years, I taught secondary. You say we don't want to silo, but we kind of have siloed elementary people into these positions. And this person would truly be a secondary person. But I've had that conversation with TJ. I said, they can't just be certified in secondary. They must have the background. They must have taught it because you don't understand it. Just because I got this certificate doesn't mean I understand what it's like. So we have put a lot of resources into the elementary, and I'm not to say that we shouldn't put more in or support what we have, but we can't ignore the secondary. We've got to get our graduation rate up. We've got to get kids through here. Somebody that has that background, I think, would be a real benefit to the secondary. We tend to look at elementary a lot and ignore the high school. I'm not saying all secondary, but I do think our middle schools, we're supposed to have a new plan, so I'm not as worried about them, but I do think the high schools need that support. And the fact that they're going to be in the buildings, that makes a big deal to me. If you're going to tell me they're going to sit down here, I would not vote for this. But the fact they are going to be in the building, I think that's a great thing.
Director Potts.
I'm not opposed to either one of these positions. But I read the job description for the secondary program director. It was a very long job description. I mean, they're tearing down silos and they're building silos and they're coordinating and they're directing and they're special editing and their test scores are going up and kids are going to pass freshman English and it's as though we had a board and had a group of people together and said, what do we want this person to do? And everybody stuck everything that perhaps they didn't want to do anymore or whatever all on this board, and we never. Okay, so now you got this job description where it's got everything in the world. Okay, and an evaluation thing that you got somebody in charge of raising ACT scores. I don't know how you're going to do that. Okay, I would like to think that this whoever winds up in this position would have a much greater level of success and focus if either we as a board or somebody says, okay, these are the 3 priorities, these 3 things, this one, and this one. Okay, that, not all of the rest. I mean, otherwise you're gonna have somebody run around like a chicken with his head cut off. And I know something about chickens. So I just think the need is there. I think the job description has the potential to create a lot of frustration and a lot of where's Waldo? What were you doing? Well, I was over here. Well, I was doing this. Well, I was in special ed. Well, I was over there. Well, and you're talking 6-12. So I think for me, I like 3. This is the 3 things we need you to do. Same with the athletic director. These are the 3 things you need to do. Yeah, you got to take care of all this up, but this is the priority. Because if you don't have priorities, then you're just juggling.
I think that's incredibly wise to have a North Star. You know, this is what we're really after, 2 or 3 North Stars. I think what makes this position particularly exciting to me, and let's take for example Ali Vandermeide that's sitting in the back. We've all seen her come up and present on 4 or 5 different things. This person would turn around and assist, take some of that off, but also ensure that the programs are going in the right direction. And that's I would say that's a void. You can see her smiling because she is really going to be able to hammer on a lot of those bullet points in the job description. Maybe that person ensuring that the work is moving forward in that area, but not necessarily carrying the water. But I think it would be very valuable for us to tell this person, these are your marching orders. And I think that's really wise. That's good feedback.
Director Posh.
Just one more comment on the full-time AD. You know, the other thing we need to think about too, we are spending millions and millions of dollars on athletic facilities, and to not have a full-time AD does not make any sense. We're spending $11 million there at West. Bruce, what are we spending on the turf fields? Yeah, about 16 million. Yeah. And so, you know, and again, you know, my priority in that area there would be just the participation and getting the feeder program started.
Director Beck.
I do appreciate Director Kleinstrom pointing out that we do already have a halftime AD for the district, and so that was something that I hadn't really articulated. And I appreciate Director Potts saying we need to have 3 specific things, because right now, part of the reason I'm concerned is that I'm hearing this person's going to do this, 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 and this, and that quickly becomes they do a little bit of everything, but they don't actually finish anything. and that I don't want to see happen again. So I'm still concerned that we don't have, that we're putting money not necessarily where it is going to impact our students the most in some of the basic things. I'm still concerned about creating more administrative positions, but I'm not saying that neither of these positions is needed. It's just I am not comfortable, given the needs for some of the lower level, I don't want to say lower level positions, but the positions with the students in the classroom right now that are funded with short-term funding. I'm still concerned about making sure that we can continue that.
Any other discussion? The only thing that I will add, it's about time we got a full-time athletic director. I mean, from being an actual youth coach with my oldest up, the disconnects at the junior high level, because the junior high is not doing the same thing the high school is doing, but the youth is doing what the high school is doing. There's a disconnect there, and I think both of these positions will kind of help with that, because I think all in all, it's a disconnect at our junior high levels where we start to lose kids, and then they'll come back in the high school because they can do dual enrollment or things like that. So I hope that fixes that, and I'll tell you firsthand because I'm going to be coming back up with a PUE again, so I'll go through it all over again. So it's one of the perks of having 4 kids in this district. So with that being said, there was a motion and a second on the floor to approve these, so I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. May I have a motion on subject 11.04, policies for approval?
Mr. President,
Director Klein Jerome.
I move the board approve the following policies: 210.05, 501.05, 502.07, 701.01, 701.02, 701.04, 703.01, 703.02, 713.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. We will move on to discussion items. The first and only item for discussion is 12.01, furniture, painting, and graphics at Eisenhower, Madison, and Wilson. I'll turn it over to Superintendent.
So this is a continuation of our phase 1 planning to revitalize our elementary schools. As you recall, we've got new furniture that went into Jefferson, Harrison, and Hayes. And we're going to do this work this summer, so we need to start planning ahead. So this is kind of the discussion around the furniture orders you'd be seeing, and some contractor approvals probably for painting and graphics coming in the near future. Hopefully, I believe at one time we'll order the Eisenhower, Madison, and Wilson furniture. They may have to be 3 separate orders because they're 3 separate locations, but kind of come all on the same day, rather than before I brought these things to you guys one at a time as they kind of came up and we could get to them. But this summer, our plan is to get these 3 schools new furniture, and then go back and also paint and do graphics at Harrison, Hayes, as well as Eisenhower, Madison, and Wilson. So it'll be a very busy summer trying to get these projects completed. But right now is when we need to get the orders moving forward. Any questions?
Director Klein Jerome.
Do any of these 3 need floors?
I'm sure some of them could potentially use floors, but right now it's not in the budget to do flooring in some of these buildings.
And then my next question is, what about the electronic signs on the outside of the buildings? Would that be included, or that come along on this? I know some of them don't need it. Eisenhower has an electronic sign.
Yeah.
I don't know about Wilson. I know Madison does not.
We have a separated schedule out for the signage of the buildings now. Not saying we couldn't do signage or get caught up a little bit more on them, but if we were to get through this budget or this budget I have stated here, and let's say there's an extra 50,000 at the end of it we didn't spend, we can certainly look at doing a sign that we need to get done that we already have an established schedule for. So we just bump into it and use it. Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you.
Any other discussion or information that board members would need to vote on this at the, what's the date for the next, at the next regular board meeting? We'll just say it like that. Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Administrative reports.
Not at this time.
Are there any board requests? All right, board reflections. We'll start with Director Beck.
Sorry, I didn't come up with mine beforehand. I really appreciated hearing about our Unified Champion schools. It's nice to see something that we sort of were introduced to in the initial stages as a proposal, and then to actually see it being put into action. I know many of us were around when the Special Olympics Iowa people came and introduced that idea, and it's really wonderful to see the students involved, and that program has begun to thrive, and that we have plans to expand it. I think that's a really great success story.
Thank you, Director Beck. Director Poston?
I would also agree with Director Beck. Also, I'd like to point out too, with our financial report, when you look back 3-4 years and where we're at now, I think we all appreciate that we're in a good place and would not ever want to go back to where we were.
Thank you, Director Poston. Director Hayes?
That's exactly where I was. I was going to say Kevin's reports. I can remember back in the days when we got those reports, how all of us pretty much cringed to hear them, but now we flow through them really smoothly. They're very understandable, and we're where we're needing to be.
Thank you, Director Hayes. Director Barnes?
Just want to acknowledge Director Poston and his series of questions and the thoughtfulness with which Director Poston is approaching this. So I thought all of your questions were right on the money. So thanks for taking the lead on those questions, Kent.
Thank you, Director Barnes. Director Potts?
I think we had a good discussion on these new positions, and I hope that the board in our conversations has clarified our expectations for these positions. Second, I want to wish John luck. See if you can find another Bernie Sagnaw to be our director. Good luck, pal.
Thank you, Director Potts. Director Klein-Jerome?
In the Finance Committee, we've talked about, we see 5 years where we've been, and I said I'd almost like to keep that 5-year ago position because it's good that we see, look where we were and where we have come. When that one drops off, it always looks like it's good, and we need to always focus on the fact that we don't ever want to go back there. I also appreciate the fact that student board members stepped up to cover other board members that weren't here to make sure that their information got shared.
Thank you, Director Klein-Jerome. Superintendent Schneckler?
I don't know, for whatever reason, when this initiative of Unified Champions was started, the board got invited, and myself, we got invited to something at West High School. I can't remember what it was. It was a dance. And they just happened to be handing out those friendship bracelets. And when I go to schools, I feel fully included. So I don't ever feel like I don't belong in any one of our schools. But I specifically remember the students handing me that bracelet, and I did feel included, more included than I normally do. And I wore that thing. I think even Director Poston wore his for a while, but I wore that for a while, and this has a huge impact on us. And I want to remind where that started. That started from the board pushing us to do that. So So I really appreciate that because it's now a part of our culture, and those two human beings are doing an outstanding. I mean, we got other people doing it, but they're doing such a good job. You can tell that's not something they do; it's something they are. So I'm incredibly proud of them.
Thank you, Superintendent. I concur with everybody else. The Unified Champions was an awesome presentation. I'd love to see that it's growing and taking on its own form at each school that participates in it. I also wanted to acknowledge the student board members. I think they're giving us great reports every meeting. It's nice that they got a nice little report done up, and then they also talk about their feeder schools and the upcoming events for the some of our feeder opportunities like the cheerleaders and things like that. So I think that's awesome. And with that, Director Potts, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
I saw those things and thought they looked classy.
You don't like our pad?